Well, many reasons. This is a conservative party. It's basically a very nationalist party. Let's face it. AK Party is extremely pro-state. I mean, this pro-state impulse is in their DNAs. You know, it's just more so than the other liberal democratic parties, political parties, and platforms in the West. So it's a conservative party. It tries to conserve certain political traditions. The military has always been at the heart of state, starting from the Ottoman Empire until so. They have this, affinity, this psychological affinity actually with the military. That's why I said they would have preferred not to do anything. But the military did not stop there. I mean, they dislike this government. They dislike these headscarf wives. They put this internet ultimatum in 2007, 17th of April. I mean, the military actually provoked this government, and they opened they gave another court case for the closure of the party. And the commanders refused to shake the hands of headscarf wives. They had parallel meetings, parallel celebrations of the Republic's Day in order not to invite their wives. I mean, after a while, it does become quite insulting, doesn't it? I mean, for civilian political actors not being invited to celebrations because their wives are headscarfed, one commander refusing to, shake the hands of the president's wife. This was televised because see the commander changing his path. And he's the commander, by the way, who was not promoted in this last Yash meeting. One of those who was not promoted or who was kept in a, passive position. So after a while, I think it was all too much for the government, and they had to do something about it. That's how they revised their reform stand against or towards the military, starting from 2007 after the ultimatum and the closure case 2008. They probably decided that something must be done, maybe not radical, but the military should be under the democratic control of the civilian authorities, the parliament and the bureaucracy. They became convinced, not out of intellectual commitment, not because they know much about how these things are done in the West, but they became convinced that something had to be done. Ergenekon and Balyoz are wonderful instruments. They turned into happy instruments for the government to use against or to use for establishing the democratic control over the armed forces. Although some Kemalist circles in Turkey are not convinced about the fullness or the correctness or the fairness of these accusations. 2008 is the year when these groups of officers and their, buddies in the civilian sphere, professors, journalists, etc., were arrested on charges of plotting to overthrow the government by creating all sorts of turmoil in the country. And it's been going on. It's an ongoing thing. They haven't yet been, some are brought to trial. Some are still waiting to be fully, indicted and tried in the courts. I think Ergenekon has been a disaster for the Turkish armed forces because it's coincided with many things. First of all, it's coincided with election victory of the popularity of a government. I mean, you have officers and their allies, being arrested on charges of overthrowing a government or plotting to overthrow a government which is extremely popular in the country. That is a bad karma. The other thing, of course, is that the war in the southeast seemed to be subdued at certain times. Negotiations, Kurdish opening in 2009, but not really. It keeps coming up, and therefore there is the need for the army to fight in the southeast, and this fight is as with many casualties. Casualties, maybe natural, maybe not, but there are those seeds of doubt in the minds of many Turks about the efficiency with which this war is being fought. So it coincides with that. It coincides with an era where coup making actually makes a country a pariah state. Most Turks, whether Kemalists or non-Kemalists, if you read the papers, if you follow the media, you see that they are against a coup d'etat. Even though they are against the AKP, most Turks are against. I think I won't be wrong in saying that most Turks are against the coup d'etat, although they may be against the AKP. And when you read the memoirs, the alleged memoirs of the generals who, started planning the coup from 2003, 2004, you're really shocked. Everybody is shocked by the primitiveness of the assumptions, the primitiveness of the conceptions, the way they conceive this country, the way they understand, or the way they do not understand politics, international politics, the psyche of this country, the civilian, the power of the civilian forces in this country. It's amazing. They probably think they're still in the 1930s. They started propaganda. In these memoirs, you see the necessity for propaganda. So we should get this and those and that sectors. We should win them to our cause. We should talk to the industrialists. This is coup making in the 60s. Come on. You don't make coups like that, or you don't make coups at all in civilized countries in the world. This is happening in 21st century. I think this was also a bad combination. It didn't sound right to many people. And of course, the fact that these coup attempts just came out. Documents poured out, document after document after document. This concept of secrecy that I talked about, which is very, very precious to the military, suddenly it just fell apart. No more secrecy. Everything was out in the open. A very postmodern reality you are now facing. And we all know that they were brought out by the officers who did not agree with their superiors. So there seems to be some problems of hierarchy. This is also a bad combination. So when you add them all up, I think the army suffers from at least, minimum term I would use would be an embarrassment. The Turkish military is embarrassed by what's been happening, and the fact that the judiciary, whether some people are happy with it or not, some judicial sort of impartiality or independence, whatever you call it, judiciary seems to be operational. It's working. Nobody is scared of these generals. Even today, you read about the new arrests for 11 generals, for instance. Nobody seems to be afraid of these generals being arrested. So taboos are being broken. And the prosecutors, the Turkish public prosecutors and judges, they seem to be okay with it. In the past, in 2005, this was unthinkable when we brought out the almanac. Civilian judges and prosecutors could not touch the military. So this is a point of no return, I think, for the military as well. We keep talking about the AKP, we keep talking about the civilian sectors. I think it's high time for the Turkish military also to do some revisions to really take a new course, a new discourse or course, new trajectories, a new language, a new approach to politics and their function in the country. So Ergenekon is bad in the sense that it tarnishes somehow their image in the universe, but I think it's also an opportunity, provides an opportunity for smart and intelligent leadership in the military to see the benefits of civilian control, democratic civilian control, to internalize it and to make it acceptable to the military as well.